Hi, this is Nicole Rivera, and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. Hey, quick interruption before we get started. This is future Nicole, i.e. Nicole after the recording of this episode. I noticed in listening back that my phone must have been on or near the desk while recording, and there was a group chat going on in one of my messenger apps. I don't know if it was Voxer or Marco Polo, but there are buzzes in the background, and I can't apologize enough because whenever that happens, I go jumping and looking for my phone when I'm listening to something. It kept happening while I was speaking, so it wasn't a great way to make that sound go away. So warning when you hear that. And then the second audio apology is that something happens at the end of this episode where there's a little prickly sound, and I thought it was my headphones, but I think it's the actual recording. Hopefully, that's not too much to stop you from listening. Here we go, on doing the work. Last week's episode 174, was 3 things before getting started. 3 things to do before getting started. And I was just talking about getting started on a new writing project, or for me, like this new season, September is like back to school, and for me, a very New Year's-y time. In fact, today, as I'm recording, is the first day that everyone in my home is out at school. My home and my space is, I'm back, and the new year is beginning. So this is what I was getting all excited about, getting to work. And I've already gotten started, and I've been thinking about the things that support me. Like, what are the pillars of support that I have in place to getting work done? And it's not just in this iteration of me showing up for my work and my writing and my projects. If I look to the other times where I have been able to consistently show up and be productive in a way that felt like, I had a beginning, middle, end, got things done, got things out there. There were, again, surprising to me as I sat and made notes, 3 things, 3 sort of pillars to doing the work. And very simply, they are schedule and plan, either schedule or plan your work and how it's going to get done. Some level of accountability. And then the third one, which is always important to me, and I'm sure you're getting used to hearing me always come around to this point, is some level of compassion and flexibility for yourself. Like, that's just embedded. If I don't have that, things fall apart. And I think that's why last week I talked about choosing your have-tos, and how part of me almost grates against when people say, like, you have to do things this way exactly. I think part of what sort of grates on me about that strictness is that I hear, whether it is there or not, an implied strictness, which just lacks compassion and flexibility. And to be perfectly honest with you, this probably comes from 12 years of Catholic school education. As I'm saying it, as soon as the word strict comes out of my mouth, I'm like, wait a second, I think I know where your psychosis about this is coming from. So, yeah, for me, if I make a schedule and plan, and I set up accountability, but I'm not flexible about it and not compassionate with myself when things, can't happen, then things fall apart. But I want to talk about all of these 3 things. So let's go through what I mean by a schedule and a plan. So last week, I discussed that one of my support systems, and which was one of my things before you get started, get your support system in, was signing up for Leonie Dawson's 40 Days to Finish Your Book. And embedded in that is 2 of these pillars, and that's partially why I signed up for it. It has part of my schedule and plan, and it has part of my accountability. So the schedule is the 40 days. The day that I started the course was day 1, and I was going to show up for my work for 40 days straight. Now, what I added to that, my have to, was that I have to show up for at least an hour of uninterrupted writing time every day. On the books, it has to be counted. Because I tend to do my writing consistently. But if you ask me, like, how much did you write today? I would have to, if I'm not, doing the work in this way where I'm serious and putting my plan in action. On a regular day, I'd have, well, let me pull out my laptop. Let me see the word count. Here's my notebook. How much? I don't know. How much did I do? And then, well, Nicole, how much time did you spend writing? I'm like, I don't know. It was like in between. I had to do this and that, so it's like very nebulous. Things keep getting done, but I don't have a tally of exactly when or how much. When I am serious and doing the work, there's a schedule and plan that has an at least and an accountable, measurable amount of time or word count that I'm showing up for. And right now, that's that 1 hour of uninterrupted writing time. And so it's been great because I discovered that, going a little old school here, I discovered a way to ensure that uninterrupted part of time, a part of the plan. And that is by using not my phone as a timer, not setting an alarm, not looking at the time on the clock, but pulling out an hourglass that was gifted to me by the wonderful Jamie Angevine, who I've interviewed on this podcast. She's been a longtime member of the Stop Writing Alone community and the Happy Campers Club. In the first iteration of the Happy Campers Club, I think it was right after we wrapped, we did like a gift exchange, kind of like a Secret Santa, even though I think it was summer. I don't know when we did it, actually. But it wasn't Christmas. And Jamie was my Secret Santa. She pulled my name out of the hat. And I guess during the Happy Campers Club, I had mentioned wanting an hourglass. And I always was looking for hourglasses. I'd pick them up in places like Home Goods and Marshalls, bring them home. And then I'd have these hourglasses that were like a minute or 3 minutes. I'm like, what am I going to do with this time? So Jamie gifted me this beautiful hourglass that is a 30-minute hourglass. So it's got 30 minutes of sand. And this has been so perfect for this project right now. Because in previous schedules and plans, what I have often required, what has been required of me to get this uninterrupted writing time is literally leaving my house, just getting out of here and going to usually the Barnes & Noble cafe and setting up the schedule and plan with my family, saying, these are the days that I'm going to go. This is how long I'm going to be there. You won't see me. That's where I'll be. And you'll see me when I get back. And I was getting ready when I was signing up for this course. I said to my husband, I said, I think I'm going to have to be going to Barnes & Noble again. I just have to figure out when and how. Because it's not as close to my house anymore. It's not like a 5-minute walk. Now it's about a probably like 15-minute walk for me. Because, again, I don't drive. I don't know if everybody knows that here on the podcast. Due to my vision damage from the idiopathic intracranial hypertension, I've lost depth in my vision. I've lost color a lot of the time. And my peripheral vision is not reliable. Let's just say it that way. It's not reliable. So these 3 things, I've taken myself off the road, even though New York State keeps issuing me a driver's license. It's a little scary. So I don't drive. So when I say that I'm going to go to a place, I have to incorporate like the time to get there. And I was just sitting, I was like, that's going to take me so much time to go back and forth. It's not really a great space closer than that. So I wasn't loving that. So I was like, how can I do this at home? And I spotted the hourglass. And the first day I sat with it, I was like, I was kind of in that mode. I'm sure everybody's done this, where you're like, today I'm going to write and I'm going to set up my computer, get my little mug of warm beverage. I'm going to set the mood. Oh, I'm going to bring over my beautiful hourglass today and use that as a timer rather than using the phone. It was just a mood, right? So I tipped the hourglass and I said, look, I know this is going to be a half hour. I know that I've committed to at least an hour. This is great. It sets the mood. I feel cool. But then the greatest thing happened that just, it was like such a cool aha, like, oh, this is how I really get uninterrupted time. I want to say it was my son that walked in for something silly, like, can you get me this thing that's too high or whatever? And I glanced over at my hourglass and realized I couldn't pause it. I was like, because normally if I have a timer going off, going on my phone and my son or my husband or a phone rings or anything, if anything comes up, I will hit pause on the timer, go do that thing, and make sure that I come back and then resume the timer so that I get the full amount of time, right? Doing my due diligence. But I look at this hourglass and I'm like, 1, I can't pause it. 2, I have no idea how much time elapsed, so I can't even say, all right, I'll go and help him and then I'll come back. And it was day 1. So I was like, no, I need my full hour. This is day 1. So I said to him, honey, I can't pause my hourglass. You see the sand. Can you just wait until the sand goes down, or can you ask Daddy? And he said, oh, okay. And that was that. And I was like, well, that was simple. And so, and I was like, wow, uninterrupted time. I can't even interrupt myself. I can't pause it. Same thing happens like 2 days later. My husband calls me from the other room. He's writing some lesson plans up, getting ready for his new school year. He's like, can you read this for me? I want to see something. I said, my sand is still falling. And the two of them have been seeing me with the hourglass enough times. And he said, okay, just, when you're done. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is miraculous. Never mind that I've already seen both of them walk by my desk, look at the hourglass and say, oh, okay, I'll be back. What are you talking about? Why did we create like these newfangled technologies to get time when this visual cue has been here all along? So my schedule and my plan quite simply is 40 days in a row, 1 hour at least of uninterrupted time. Because the other great thing about an hourglass, I didn't tell you about this one. It doesn't beep and tell you stop. So I get in the groove and I'm writing, and I look over and the sand is done and I'm like, how long was that? I don't even know how long I've been sitting here. And, I'll look up at the clock and be like, wow, I did an extra 20 minutes, extra whatever. So, yeah. Aside from schedule and plan, if you can't get away from where your typical distractions are, the hourglass, I was, I kind of thought it would be a cool tool to have for myself because I do like a lot of the old school tangible stuff when I'm writing. Like I said, there's many times where I just appreciate writing with pen and paper rather than on my computer. I just thought, cool, I'll also get an hourglass. It's actually really effective. So that's it. That's my new way of getting uninterrupted writing. And the cool thing about having a half-hour hourglass is that I get that break in between if I need it for something. So every time I'm looking at the sand and like if I have to go to the bathroom or something, I'm like, all right, well, just wait until the sand is up and then you'll go and then you can flip it and start again. So that's number 1. And I went on a whole hourglass tangent, but it was worth it. It was worth it. Thank you, Jamie, if you're listening. Okay. So that's number one, schedule and plan. And if you need uninterrupted time, my two plans for uninterrupted time, it used to only be one. One was get the hell out of Dodge, find a place that no one knows you, and you won't get interrupted. And number two is now go old school, hourglass it, love it. It's visual for everybody looking at you, but also you can't pause it. You can't interrupt yourself. Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay. So the second thing that I need, and I'm sharing this because I don't think I'm unique in needing these three things. The second thing that I need for doing the work is some type of accountability, right? So when we talk about like our day jobs, where we show up and do the work all the time, and we're like, oh, well, I have to. Well, why? Because you're being held accountable either by your coworkers, your boss. For me, back in the day, it was my students. Like I had to have something when I showed up in my classroom. That was a daily accountability of 20 or more sets of eyes looking at me like, what are we going to do today? Like, oh, wait. I should have come prepared. No, always come prepared. So when you're writing or self-employed in any way, where do you find that accountability? This is part of the whole onus for Stop Writing Alone. Finding these people that you can discuss this with and say, can I show up to you? Can you show up to me so that we can be accountable to each other? I can't seem to always do it for myself. And I don't know if that's just part of it. But even when I'm leading groups of accountability and goals and things like this, I find that there are times, not always, and I know that my people in my groups know this, that I exclude myself from it. Because it's like my job is to show up for you. And we'll do our whole goal and accountability meeting. And then somebody will say, but Nicole, we didn't hear your goals and accountability. And I'm just like, well, mine was to show up here and to give everybody feedback and fit in my stuff all around that. So I'm like just in a different mindset when I'm showing up in that way. So this is partially why I went and seeked out. That doesn't sound right. We're going to go with it because I just want to keep going. Future Nicole here. It's sought out. Sought out is what you're looking for. You may proceed. A space where I was just facing a crowd, looking for accountability. And I have this self-paced Leonie Dawson course, right? It's not a live course. She just has it automated that every single day from the day that I started the course, I get an email in the morning that says, hey, it's day whatever, and each day has some sort of like motivational whatever. And then it has an accountability question. There's two parts to every day. One is just, here's a fun worksheet for you. Here's a quote for you. I'm trying to think of what else we got. I don't know. And then, like day one was like, here's a cool worksheet to write down your goal. Day two was, here's a worksheet that's, those when you're doing a fundraiser and they have the big thermometer and they color as they go. We almost made it to our goal. She gave us like a thermometer to put our words on. Print that out, have that on my desk. Great. And then, so worksheet, inspiring quote, whatever in the morning. Don't forget you're on day, whatever. And then the second part of the lesson is 2 questions. It's a test because it's a course, right? It's a test, a 2-question test. Question number 1. Did you do your writing today? Did you hit your writing goal for today? A, yes. B, no. I'll try better, I'll try harder next time or something. I forget what no says. And then question number 2, how many words did you write? And that's it. So it's this like very impersonal sort of thing that I have to interact with. But it has it's a Kajabi course. It has you can mark each day's lesson as completed. And there's something like, oh, I have to mark the day as completed or I will feel like I'm off. In addition to that, there's a forum. Leona used to do it on Facebook, but she's off social media completely now. So there's a forum. And what's really interesting is because it's like a self-paced course, it's not like everybody's in there right now. It's like me and then I think there's 2 other people that happen to sign up for the course like this week. Like, oh, I started on Thursday. Oh, I started on Friday. Okay. So I kind of like check in to see if they did any posts and that's it. And that's it. Aside from, the people in my family that know that I'm doing it, that's my accountability. But it's enough. I don't know why. And so finding whatever is the thing that's going to help you just show up. And it could be just answering that question to somebody every day. Somebody say, did you do your writing today? And it's like, yeah. Well, how many words did you get? Oh, you want, like it's that twofold. Not just that I did it, but then like, let's be really accountable. Write down a number. This is how much I got done. And I've been filling in my silly little thermometer worksheet with my highlighters. And that's fun. I swear I used to say this in teaching. It's like the dumbest things that work. Really dumb. So that's my accountability. It's nothing more than that. It's a silly worksheet. It's automated questions without a person behind them. And then a forum. That's all. But it's got me showing up with my hourglass every single day. However, the third thing that I get that needs to be underpinning all of this at all times in order for me, this is like a very Nicole thing, in order for me to show up and really do the work, I gotta feel like there's some compassion and flexibility around me at all times. You get too rigid with me, you get too strict, and I like flip the table and I'm out of here. I want nothing to do with you. I don't want to do this 40 days every single day. You want me to write for 1 hour every single day? No excuses? I'm out. It's ridiculous. I can do 40 days every single day without a problem. But if you tell me that, in the event that I can't, I've failed because that's, I've broken rules or whatever, then I'm like, oh, I just got to go because I'm not even going to stress myself like that. So for me, that means that while I've made up this plan and I am quite confident that I can and will accomplish it without a problem, there is no beating myself up throughout the process. So what was it? It was this Monday was Labor Day here in the States, bank holiday, no school had started yet. It was actually my husband's last day before he started school. And we had invited family over. We had a tradition with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law of watching, I think it was in the last season of Game of Thrones, we watched all the episodes together. So they would come over here and I would cook and we would hang out and everything. And we said, oh, we should do this again for House of Dragon. And we haven't started. That's the sequel to Game of Thrones, if you're not up on all of the nerdiness that's going on in my life. So we called up each other like, oh, well, they had watched the first episode and a half. So we said, all right, fine. Here's what we'll do. We'll watch the first 2 episodes, but then on Labor Day, you guys come over and we'll do the thing. So, of course, Monday morning, when I should be writing, I'm like cleaning up, getting the food ready, making sure everybody's ready to do everything. Then they come over. They don't want to come over too late. My husband's going to go to work the next day. They have work the next day. They come over in the afternoon. We're eating. We're watching the show. We're drinking. They go, I don't even remember what time it was. It was probably around like 10 o'clock. Even though everybody came over early, that they went late, as we do when we get together. And my husband's driving them to the ferry, getting my son into bed and everything. And I look at the clock and I said, oh no, I did not do my hour of writing. And I was about to go crazy. Like, how could you do this? You're in no condition right now to do this writing the right way. But my compassion and flexibility told me, you know what, just do it anyway. Just like right now, just like squeeze in the hour in your tired self, get out your hourglass and just sit here with it and see what happens. And that's it. I got it, I got it done. And it sounds funny because I'm realizing that it's probably just perspective, right? Because somebody else would say the rigidness of my rules and the strictness said, do it anyway. Sit down, get your hour done, and that's that. But for me, it was more like in a loving embrace of, oh, you silly Nicole. You have no business doing this. But go ahead, give it a shot. And whatever happens, happens. You'll fix it tomorrow because guess what? Tomorrow you're going to do an hour also. And honestly, out of all of the days that I've been doing this, that was the proudest I was that night, that I was like, that I did it. And I was like, yeah, that's the point, that you show up anyway. And for me, that happens in a thread of compassion. And I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. But yeah, I have to be gentle with myself. But this is it. This is exactly it for me. You make a schedule and a plan. You have some thread of accountability that works for you, and you meet yourself where you are with, and that's that compassion, and the work gets done. And as I sat here and thought about it, I was like, this is exactly how Girl Unplugged got finally done. That I made a schedule and a plan of showing up to the Barnes & Noble for a solid month of, I think it was just the weekdays, 9 to 11 a.m. That was my plan. My accountability was that it was Camp NaNoWriMo, right? So again, now this is interesting. Again, for me, it was a faceless sort of data entry. Every day I had to go to that Camp Nano site and type in my words. But rather than a thermometer that I was coloring in to see my word count grow, the website itself had the little stats that grew and showed me like, oh, you added to that, you added to that. And yeah, there was always compassion and flexibility back then because, I was still a new mom, so there were times that I was tired or what have you. But I think I showed up every single weekday for that entire month. Maybe save like one day where we were at a family barbecue or something. So those are the three things. It's really interesting though that I'm just realizing that both times this accountability factor for me is this non-human marking of my words. But writing down my word count on my own is not enough. It's not enough. Somebody else has to be asking me what my word count is. So now that I've had this amazing epiphany, I am asking you to please let me know, to take a moment now and think about this. Is there something like that for you? What is the accountability bit that works best for you? Is it speaking to somebody on the regular, person to person. I think what's working for me is not just writing down my word count, but it is seeing the growth. It is kind of like a tiny celebration every single time I do the writing. Every single time I write down my word count for the day, I then add to my growing thermometer. Or back in any time I've done NaNoWriMo, right? Because this is the same thing that happens in NaNoWriMo. I've seen the stats grow. There's something just very tangible about that. And that celebration is probably just feeding me on the right levels. It's kind of like, I don't know if I've mentioned this here before, but there's, where did I hear this? A tiny bit of chocolate can trick your brain into thinking that what you're doing is very good, So a little Hershey Kiss, and there's something about the hormones that are released when you eat this tiny bit of chocolate as a kind of reward that helps things sort of stick with you longer. And I noticed, because the first time I heard this was over a decade ago, and at the time I was a member of what is the name of it? Planet Fitness Gym, which has got all different types of reward systems in it. They have a Pizza Monday and I think a Bagel Tuesday or something. I always missed out on those because of gluten and dairy problems for myself. But they have Tootsie Rolls on their front desk. And it was around the same time that I had read this thing, and I was like, oh, this is like my tiny bit of chocolate that I've gone to the gym, I've done my exercise, tiny bit of chocolate. Exercising in its own right gives you the right endorphins to sort of give you a mental celebration, a little emotional celebration reward. But I think the looking of the growing stats is a little reward for me. So I said there were 3 things to doing the work, but that second one is giving me a bit of an aha that I didn't have when I first came into this recording. So I'm rambling now, but I just want to know if you have any thoughts about what works for you, and does that help you to actually see your numbers grow? It could be in a statistical format, like I'm talking about, where the nano bot does it for you, or this little fundraising thermometer. It could be watching a notebook fill up page by page. That also feeds my soul when I finish a notebook full of writing. I fit this all into a level of accountability, but it's not something that we necessarily get from others. What's your thing? Do you have a visual or physical accountability partner in your game? Is it a chart? Is it a word count? Is it a page count? Is it seeing notebooks fill up your shelf? Curious. But enough talking from me, because you know what I have to do. I have to go do the work. I have my hour that I need to do of writing today before all the humans get home. Although I could wait till they get here because I got an hourglass, but I will try to get it done in this peace and quiet and see if that is even more inspiring. But it was lovely talking to you this morning. Have a wonderful week. Please don't forget that every Friday I'm going over to the NV Rivera YouTube channel to share writing prompts and writing exercises. But you can get everything, this podcast, those prompts, more, over at stopwritingalone.substack.com, where I share the new episodes, I share the new videos when they come out. But also there is a paid subscription level at the very cheap rate of $5 a month or $50 for the year, where I add even more events, because everybody's invited to at least one write-in every month, and one writing prompt party every month. But if you are a paid subscriber for that low price of $5 per month or $50 for the year, you'll also get extra write-ins, an extra writing prompt party, and membership in the Story Club, where we're reading through the book 27 Essential Principles of Story by Daniel Joshua Rubin. We're going through all the different lessons. We're learning about story structure, and we are reading and consuming brand new stories alongside it. And we have a meeting to discuss that every single month, as well as newly added this September and happening for the first time this Friday is a goal and accountability Zoom chat so that we can discuss our goals. And you can bet that tomorrow I will be talking about this physical accountability and how my people are doing it. But yeah, join us. We've got a nice solid group where I think we're up to like 20 members now. It's been so much fun writing with everyone in the write-ins and doing the writing prompt parties and especially learning side by side through Story Club. I love this stuff. Clearly, it's my way of not writing alone anymore. So if you want to join us, just go to stopwritingalone.substack.com and just follow the little prompts to join in. In fact, if you go to the page, you can see the calendar of events right there on the front page. Okay, but that's it. Let's all do the work right now. Let's get to writing, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you, as always, for listening.